Hi everybody, Mature Simmer here. Welcome back to Tower Simulator 3 and another advanced how-to on how to modify this game and do things with the game that may make it more enjoyable if you're an avid simmer like myself who likes to really make things as real as possible and really get the most out of their sims. So one of the areas I've spent a good amount of time in, as you can see here, I've got a lot of things completed. I have a few more potentially that I may or may not get done here. We've got LaGuardia and then a couple things at LAX here. But then the career games are done. And I do have other airports. Initially I thought, well, when I purchase additional airports, I'll get more career scenarios. And I was disappointed to see that was not the case. You just get the 15 that come with the game at the initial stage with the pre-built airports, but they just added another airport, for example Burbank, that's in the base game. There's no scenarios here for Burbank. So to me this was a big gap, and so I began looking to see, can I do anything, and more importantly, does it really make sense to do anything? So we're going to talk through both of those. I'm going to show you how to do it, so the answer is yes, you can do it. But the question then becomes, is it worth it? And we'll talk about that as well. So let's get into it. So as with any of the modifications in the system, a lot of things are run by CSVs in Tower Simulator 3, and the career layout is no different. So you're going to need something to edit CSVs, and I'd suggest plain old Notepad for this. There isn't much that you need to do. You can keep things pretty basic and get things to work. And then what you are doing is you're figuring out where you've got Tower Simulator 3 loaded. So in my case I have it on my D drive. And so it's sitting here, and then in the root of Tower Simulator 3 you're going to have files, and the one you're looking for is jobs.csv. So I'm going to open that up, and if you recall what we were looking at, this should look very similar. Lo and behold, these are our 15 scenarios. So when you're trying to figure out how do you do things and add things to the career mode, you have just found out. There's a header up here that gives you all the information you need, but just as with anything, when you're editing these files, I always suggest don't make it super difficult for yourself. Pick a row, copy it, and paste it down here. So Control-C and Control-V. And then we can see we're basically going to have the career level. So I'm going to do a level 1 scenario, and I'm going to call it Welcome to Music City. And the reason I'm calling it that is my airport is going to be KBNA. And so you can see then you've got runways that you need to determine. And so if you've got something like Nashville that has runways that go in both directions, so similar to LAX, you're going to have to enter it in quotes the way you see there. So within Nashville, a good runway to use, 20 left, 2 right. That is the runway that's across the couple bridges that go over the road that's recessed that gets you back to the terminal. And then you're setting your start and your end time. So unlike the scenarios that come with the game, I'm going to go ahead and just set this for an hour. It's Welcome to Music City. I'm getting going at 5 a.m., just working an hour to get used to the airport and so forth. And then you've got things about the clouds, the rain, the fog, wind direction. You can do various things. I'm not entirely certain how some of this works, but I think you can put in ranges like you can see here, where this is, the direction of the wind. So it's wind direction, and then you have wind speed, and those are also in pieces. So I think what happens is it's at 45 degrees at 5 miles, then it goes, or 5 knots, then it goes 43, 7 knots, 41, 8 knots, 39, 10 knots. So the wind's kind of slowly shifting, it's slowly rotating in that case, and then, obviously going through. And so similarly here, for example, in New York, in LaGuardia, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, you know, in different levels correspondingly and so forth. You know, this is an example, because work for your money. This was a scenario I did where I had to, at some point, change the runway I was using. So you can see the wind starts at 37, and then by the end it's going in at 85. So you're moving 40 to 60 degrees, and then that becomes planes complaining that they've got a tailwind. So you can do things like that. I'm just going to keep it, you know, simple with what we've got. And just so that you can see how that this works, I'm going to go ahead and set the payment as it's described as $12.56. And then we'll go ahead, run the early morning start here at KBNA. Now it's also interesting because you'll see here another mix-up, 4 hours, heavy traffic. I think that's because the comma's in there, because otherwise it would obviously not know what to do with it. Because you can see, you know, there's periods and stuff used, there's apostrophes. I don't know that there's another exclamation point that's not there, so the exclamation point sometimes serves as a wildcard potentially or something. But you can always experiment with this. But basically, you've now added, or I've now added a scenario, and you can just continue to add more of these if you want. So I'm going to go ahead and save. The other thing you need is you need a schedule for the career. So this can be different. It's a different file. It can be different than your base one. In this case, I'm simply going to copy this. So Control-C, Control-V, and this is a custom schedule from real life. And this is a schedule that I made from data from FlightAware from 12/7/2023. And we just need to rename this to be schedule_career. The best I can tell, you have one of these. You don't get to pick from them. Now you could set up different databases, so you would just need to know that something is going on, but I'll talk about that in a second. But at this point we've just duplicated this and created the same schedule. You'll notice when I click here, I'm on the next line. So the trick is, don't just type and stop. Most of the other CSVs, you don't want another line because it gets read as a blank, and it could potentially cause a problem. In theory, I've not actually tried it, but like when I've edited the schedule CSVs and things like that, I don't go down to the next line, I stop. So I don't have a carriage return at the end, but it looks like that's what you do need in the CSV file. But this now shows you what you need to do, and again, you need that schedule_career to go ahead and use it. So we're going to go into this one again. This is the modified database I used, and here I am, and you can see it moves forward a bit because the first plane is showing up a little bit after 5, so the game will zip forward until there's something for it to do, but then it'll kind of stay in line. So I'm going to go back to the main menu, go back to my career list, and so I'm going to go into the second one here, the Thunder Rolls. And so, you know, you can see the benefit here. I've got 20 left as my
Nashville
arrival
ground.
set.
Delta 2767 with information Charlie, requesting push and start.
So it's, you know, 10 a.m. here. We've got this going on. You know, we'll see what things look like, but it's raining. It's cloudy. It's, you know, a bit crazy out here. And so this leads us to the second part of what I was going to share is, you know, do you want to use this in any way? And is there a reason to have scenarios? And so the answer to the question potentially is a little bit complex, or more complex than one would think. You can get your scenarios in. So my thought is, where I think I may use this, is I may try to build out packs. And what I'm going to look at is trying to be kind of creative in utilizing this, and basically create a scenario pack or a career pack where you're working at a given airport, running into different things. But the challenge that I've struggled with is, at the end of the day, what the career mode is doing is it's simply giving you a start and an end time, and it's potentially giving you an ability to earn a payment, as they call it in that setup file, where I could get, on top of the points that I get for controlling the planes, I'm going to get this bonus. Now, I did try, as I was testing this, I did try to put in like 10,000 points, and it will display that, but I ended up getting 10,000 plus 50% bonus for finishing, but then it basically, like, it still capped me at less points, so there does seem to be some limit, which seems okay. I mean, I don't know, because I just did an hour and gave myself 10,000 points. Now, I did also try to do a really short shift, so I did do something where it was 6 to 6:15, and again, it will run. But surprisingly, what it did is it basically ran, and then it said you didn't get any bonus points because you didn't work hard enough. So there is some sort of minimum limit set in the game that the career has to be a certain length, and maybe it's just a half an hour. I didn't get that warning at an hour. So I got the warning with a 15-minute scenario. I didn't at an hour. So somewhere between 15 minutes and an hour is when it flips, and it could be at an hour. But maybe if you run for half an hour, that's good enough. Or it could be a minimum number of planes. I don't know what it is. But that was a surprising thing to me. So initially, on the surface, my stance is there's not really a benefit of going through setting up a career, because you can just go into quick play and play between 5 and 6 a.m. and have literally the same situation. The variability that the career throws in is, again, I have a schedule _ career CSV, so I could have a different set of planes set up in an easy way, and then you don't have to know how to edit. Well, to some degree you do, because you're still creating the career if you're setting this up. So you're going to have to go and play with the schedule. So I don't know that it would clear you from that. But the benefit you get is the control of the weather. So the thunder rolls, the way this sits, like I've got cloud cover, I've got rain at 92%, I've got wind blowing, and again, when I didn't have these runways in parens, they didn't show up. So keep in mind that, or in quotes, I'm sorry. So keep in mind, you do need to put quotes around the runways. It's just like here in LaGuardia, like I believe in those scenarios it worked, and it just shows 23 hours. So I don't know if there's variability by airport in how it functions. So just be aware you may need to play around with things a little bit. The other thing that you can introduce in is this change. So I've got 5 wind directions and then different speeds, where once again pay attention to the runway directions, this, that, and whatever, and then you have this control. So these are the things that the scenario or the career scenario opens up to you, where if I go to quick play, I'm dealing with, I'm setting weather conditions, and then that's what it's going to do in the game. It's not going to vary, to my knowledge. I haven't really seen, I think it changes a little bit, but like you have no control over it, where in the scenario I can clearly put in parameters. And so if I want to create something, if there was some event at an airport where suddenly we got ridiculous wind shear at a certain time, like you could be like, hey, I'm the controller over this 2-hour period where this storm blew in, and then there was all this havoc that started to happen, and you kind of get the opportunity to do something with that. There's possibilities if you're creative to find a way, you know, and you want to kind of think through it, but the point I wanted to show was you can absolutely edit scenarios here, but you can very quickly just edit that, and as long as you have something, you can build scenarios very, very quickly by just creating a schedule underscore career, which could just be a copy of what you already have, but then this gives you that capability, or you can just keep using quick play. But if you want to go ahead and do things here, you know, I wanted to give you the ability to show you how that works. So if you've enjoyed this short lesson on how to work through setting up more career scenarios for yourself, please consider dropping a like on the video. It helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you're not a subscriber, please consider that. And I will see you next time.